Let's get back to the on-air studio with Nina Postjapak, Cameron Rylance, and our new guest.
And we are back. And Paula, call in with the number, please. So let me introduce our guest, Matt Sirni. Welcome. Good morning. Matt is
Thank you.
The superintendent? Is that
Superintendent, yes.
The relatively new superintendent of the Wiltwyck Cemetery.
Correct. I started about a year ago, and there's a high turnover rate in that job. The last gentleman was there for about 30 years, and his father was there for 30 years before him.
Wow. Holy cow. So unless you don't like the job, you plan on being there for a while.
I plan on being there for a while, yeah. I got a later start in life than he did.
You
actually
got
grew
a lot
up
of
there.
years on you left, so, come on. People can be like, why'd you get a guy from the cemetery on? Well, firstly, cemetery, it's a business. It's like a big operation that a lot of people have no idea of. I never knew until my dad has gotten involved years ago in the cemetery, and so you're the superintendent. What is what do you do? What's your job function?
So my job is overall management, budgeting, maintenance, public relations. So it's really all-encompassing for everything that we do in the cemetery. I've got a crew of 7 full-time people who are just excellent. So they make
year-round?
very
7
easy.
people year-round?
No, we scale back a little bit in the wintertime. Obviously, this time of year, we're doing all of the landscape maintenance. So that
Which
takes,
is mega. I mean, I maintain a summer camp, and this spring the grass is growing better than it has in years.
yeah, it's been a good summer so far for the grass.
I can't wait for it to burn up.
It hasn't slowed down
Please,
yet.
slow down, burn up.
Yeah. We expect it to. Our cemetery is very sandy, so it's it doesn't hold a lot of water. There's not a lot of topsoil there, but that grass just keeps right on growing.
Yeah, it does.
Matt, for those that are listening, and like almost everyone knows, but tell them where Wiltwyck Cemetery is. And
So
sometimes they get confused with
Sure.
Montrepose.
Yes, that does happen all the time. So Wiltwyck Cemetery is at the end of Pine Grove Avenue, just past the YMCA, go all the way to the end.
Beautiful new. In a few years, when those trees leaf out, that's
Yeah.
like you couldn't have asked for a better entrance way
Yep.
to your.
Pine Grove Avenue. There's not a pine on it anymore, but
That's true.
lots of new trees that the city planted there.
We have a caller.
We have a number.
Oh yeah, all right, give it to me.
Your number for the Elks Lodge is 845-428-9850.
All right, I gotta write that down.
845-428-9850. I know there was a listener or two that really wanted that number.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Paula.
Yeah, absolutely.
So no pines on Pine Grove Avenue.
No,
Doesn't
no,
happen.
no.
I'm sure they were cut down and burned for heat a long time ago.
Yeah, many years ago. So, and then the most visible area of our cemetery is along West O'Reilly Street. It's on either side there, the back entrance to the hospital. So that's where most people see us, and those are our newest sections.
So is that like your eastern border,
That would be
roughly?
yes.
So where does the land go to? Like, because Pine Grove Avenue.
So it connects. If you go all the way down the end of Pine Grove Avenue, you enter our
That ends into your
That
gate.
ends into
Yeah.
into our gate, and that's the oldest section of the cemetery. That dates back to the 1800s. And then our newest section is there by what everybody kind of knows as Benedictines. I know it's not Benedictine anymore, but the hospital back
On the other side of West
road.
O'Reilly.
Correct, on both sides of West O'Reilly
yeah,
Street.
yeah.
So our office and the crematory are just inside the gates off of West O'Reilly Street, and that's the big yellow building on the hill up above the community mausoleum.
So on the other side, like if you're driving down Pine Grove, that's like the left border. Where is your right border? How far does that go down to, like the
It goes down to the
track?
railroad tracks. Yeah, we go right up against the railroad tracks.
Huh.
How much acreage do you have?
There's 85 acres there.
Wow.
5 acres. That's a lot to
That's like a-
maintain.
It's a lot to maintain.
Put a golf
Yes.
course in there.
No.
No, but I'm saying on 85 acres, though, right? Couldn't
Yeah.
you put-
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
and some
yeah.
other 85 acres.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So,
So
wow.
we
So
still
that
have-
puts things in perspective that's
Yeah.
like an 18-hole
Oh,
golf
you-
course?
You actually border Twaskill.
Topskill, we do.
Yes, I
we do.
know
We
that
actually have
from-
a lease agreement with
Yeah,
Topskill,
they-
Yes,
okay,
right. Yeah.
as does Montrepose.
Yeah.
So we border Benedictine Hospital, the parking lots,
That's a big chunk of land.
and a lot of the wooded area in between the hospital and Topskill.
And you got a lot of wooded area as opposed to the used area where the
Developed area,
markers are?
correct.
Developed
we,
area?
we have almost as much undeveloped area as,
Oh,
as
wow.
we have developed area, and it totals 85
Wow,
acres.
huh.
Oh, that's
And is
yeah.
that other undeveloped area suitable for future use?
It is
Because
with some work, but yes,
history, you know,
yes.
we're moving forward. So
Correct. Like you said earlier, cemetery is a business.
forever business.
And we want it to be a financially healthy business so that the cemetery can continue to look the way it does. There are many cemeteries around that you can see haven't managed their business as well, and the landscape and the management of the cemetery kind of reflects that. So it's very important that we have room to grow and that we're looking to the future, which I'm really fortunate that we have a dedicated cemetery board that is always looking to the future of what's next. So
Yeah,
we
so
have land
I
to
mean,
expand.
just, you know, the investment over the last few years, the crematorium,
Yes.
I happen to know, it's high-tech, expensive. It was a gamble to a degree to, you know, make that investment and.
It was. So 2 years ago, well, a little bit longer than that, 2 years ago, it was completed that the board of directors or board of trustees decided to build this modern crematory. And it's a beautiful building, and it's not at all what I'm concerned people might envision for a crematory. It's not a scary, dark place. It's not a, whatever your worst nightmare of what a crematory might look like.
Yeah, from
it's
a
nothing like
horror
that.
movie or
Right,
something.
yeah.
Correct. I would honestly compare it more to the setting or the feeling would probably be similar to a funeral home. It is welcoming, it is warm, it's a comfortable place to sit. So we actually offer a service that's referred to as witness and lighting. For many years, people have had that final graveside service for their loved one, and many people don't get that experience if they choose cremation. So we can have a service at the crematory where people can come witness the beginning of the cremation process, or they can even participate in the beginning of the
Which is
cremation
like a
process.
point of closure, similar
Correct.
to, I'm not trying to be more, but, you know, interring a body is like a point of
Correct.
finality for
Correct.
your loved ones. And wow, that's
It's
cool.
exactly true,
Not
and,
cool,
and
but
now
it's
that it's certainly
neat.
different,
Well, that's what I'm
and
worried.
it's an excellent alternative or another option for
Yeah.
people
Huh.
to experience that sense of closure.
You know, you spoke about the cemetery going back to the 1800s. So there's a lot of history also in Wiltwyck Cemetery,
Yes.
correct?
Absolutely. So every street name in the city of Kingston, you can find one of those family members
I believe it.
buried in
I
our
believe
cemetery. So
Now,
I'm
did
curious
it-
about the book you discussed earlier.
He has a whole section
Well,
on that.
listen at 8:30.
I will.
Steve is
I
coming
will.
in. So.
I'm looking forward to that.
Now,
Can I just ask one other
Yeah,
question
yeah, yeah.
quickly? So Nancy Shando, Friends of Historic Kingston, came on, and they had found this, for lack of a better word, manuscript where it actually documented all of the stones and the sayings that were on the stones, because many of the stones have been worn throughout the
Dutch.
years, and
Correct,
you cannot
yeah.
read them at the Old Dutch
Yes.
Cemetery, so church. Do you find that at Wiltwyck Cemetery too, some of the stones have deteriorated over the years and it's difficult to read them and so forth, or are they in, decent condition?
Some of ours, I think we're really fortunate. I'm not sure why. It may be an age issue that ours aren't quite as old as the ones at the Old Dutch Church. But we also, my predecessors, the superintendents before me, took great care in caring for the stones themselves. So just like every other cemetery, we've had stones that have deteriorated over the years and fallen or broken. And
sandstone, for instance,
very, very
erodes away.
soft.
Granite's
Yep.
going to be there forever.
Exactly. But my predecessors have been very good about caring for the monuments and putting them back together if there's a problem and preserving them to the best of our ability. And I'm carrying that on, that this is our history. You can see
is,
all of Kingston's
absolutely.
history in this cemetery. So, and we have some great volunteers that help in the cemetery, and one gentleman in particular, Walt Wachowski, He spends a lot of time cleaning and taking care of the monuments, and he's strictly a volunteer. He does it out of the love of the history of the city.
Yeah, I know the name. He's
Yes.
guy's been involved in our community for a long time.
Wonderful guy.
Yeah. Now, did any particular church or group or religion start the cemetery? Does it have a
No, it is a community cemetery. So
really even from day one?
we serve all faiths. Some of the history of the cemetery I find kind of fascinating. That one of the things that we came across was when families started buying land in the cemetery. One of the things they were fighting over was you own the trees, and people were trying to log the trees off of it. It must have still been a forest at that
Oh,
point.
isn't that interesting?
But the whole place is just really amazing and full of that rich history, which I'm still learning. When I first started, Paul O'Neill came
yes.
and took me on a tour, and it was almost overwhelming.
Yeah,
He's
yes,
such
yes,
a
and
wealth of knowledge.
Paul is, and it's all here up in his head, and he's just
Exactly.
amazing.
We were about halfway through my tour of the cemetery, and I thought, why did I not take notes for this?
Right?
We were just going for a walk, but what a wealth of knowledge. So we do historical tours. We have one coming up sometime probably in August. We don't have a date set for that yet. But we like to share the history of the cemetery, and you can easily see how it ties in with the history of Kingston, too. So we have some great volunteers that have taken on that project of sharing the history and doing
Oh, that's
these walking
great.
tours.
You'll have to call in or let us know when that date
Absolutely.
is determined,
Yeah.
because that would be a wonderful thing for people to be able to participate in.
Yeah.
And it really
Last summer
tell
we
a
did an
story.
arboriculture tour where we had a local
Oh, wow,
arborist
that's cool.
take us through,
yeah.
because we have a really diverse
I was going to say
forest.
what's going on in there?
So we are fortunate again that my predecessors cared about this property as much as I do, and they took care of the trees and they planted new trees on a regular basis.
Diversity.
Very diverse. We have some trees. We have one oak tree that was recently dated to be 350 years old.
Wow.
It's absolutely
What kind? Like
monstrous.
white oak?
It's a white oak.
Wow.
Yep. Yep.
I'm surprised it stood that long. 'Cause, I mean, boat building, white oak tree. Oh
Yeah.
my God, white oak.
Right.
that's
Exactly.
like
Exactly.
desperate for that.
Yeah. And the fact that it
150
lasted.
years ago, it was probably a big tree 100 years ago.
Exactly. Oh, it absolutely
Now,
was.
were you hit bad with ash borer or?
So we've lost some trees. We recently lost a large pine tree to pine beetle. But I monitor these things very carefully. We have some hemlocks left
Really?
that are
Wow.
still doing pretty well.
That's the aldigid, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. And we try and take care of
You
those.
treat those or?
No, we don't treat them. We try and stay I shouldn't say try to stay. So far, we have been able to stay completely organic.
Wow.
Even for our weed control, we stay completely organic, and we have areas of the
Got
cemetery.
billy goats out there?
We do have.
Do you really?
Yeah, we had a goat. We had a
Come
goat.
in? Oh, yeah, because
Yeah, we had a goat. We
Yeah,
fenced
that
him
is.
in.
Yeah,
And,
that's huge. They
you
love
know,
poison ivy.
Loves poison ivy and sumac, and we have a lot of wineberry bushes, which are very thorny, terrible material, and he loved it and cleared this entire area for us. And we got a little write-up in some landscape maintenance magazines about
Yeah.
trying to
That's
take
cool.
a greener alternative. And from a business point of view, it's not just that it's greener, but it's less expensive too. It didn't cause us to have to spend payroll on that project. We could focus on other projects
yeah,
for the
that's
beautification
cool.
of the cemetery.
Yeah, absolutely.
Are you paying the goat?
Yes, we
Okay.
pay him in poison ivy and
Food and water and,
yes.
and a nice straw bed at night.
and a lot of attention.
Yeah.
He garnered a lot of
Oh,
attention.
I'm sure
when he was
people
there.
stop by to see him.
Yep.
Now I'm going to ask a
absolutely.
silly question, but where do you find a goat to do such a thing? I mean,
My daughter has a goat. It's a 4-H
oh,
project.
really?
Oh, okay. So there are companies that
Okay.
come
We
in and
joke-
fence off.
They are.
everything.
There are absolutely. But this is my daughter's goat, and so yeah, it was just take your goat to work day. And
That's
I
funny,
loaded him in
yeah.
the truck and took him.
Oh my gosh, that's great. So your daughter does 4-H?
She does. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, she does a lot of different 4-H projects. So.
Hearts, home, health, heart, happiness, or health, home, heart.
Oh, I couldn't. Yeah.
My
I
sister,
couldn't
my
if I
mom's a
tried.
4-H.
Oh, really?
My
Okay.
sister was in it
Yeah.
a long time ago.
Yeah.
So now you've been there for a year?
I have. Yeah. I've just passed my 1-year anniversary.
Okay, and prior to that, you had another hat for many, many years that
I
everybody
did.
in the community knew you. Maybe we just talk about that transition from being a businessman on your own to what you're doing now.
You know what? It's actually really important, and I didn't realize how important it was until I kind of got into the job. But yes, my business background locally, I was self-employed as a landscape contractor for 25 years.
And a very good one, if I must say so myself, and I can attest to that because my mother has a beautiful backyard because of that.
Your
So go
mother's
ahead.
so fun to work with.
Thank you.
So I took that business background and kind of brought it into the cemetery. And as we discussed a little while ago, the cemetery is a business. We have families that we care for and that we answer to. So that's very important. That they're not an interruption to our day. They're the purpose of our day. So we care for these families who have entrusted their loved ones to us. And we have to provide service. And the better service we provide, the more people that are going to choose to have their cremation at Wiltwyck Cemetery or to bury their loved one at Wiltwyck Cemetery. And that's good for business.
Absolutely.
So it's better service we provide, the more people that utilize us.
And it's an emotional decision.
Absolutely.
It truly is. It's a time when you're grieving. It's a difficult time in your life. Or individuals choose prior to passing away where they want their final resting place to be. And again, that's a very emotional decision. So you're absolutely right. It is a business, and you have to treat it as such.
Correct. And it's a pleasure to work at Wiltwyck because we have so many options available for people. We have our indoor mausoleum, so we have crypt space as well as cremation niche spaces available within the mausoleum, and then we have traditional in-ground burials throughout the cemetery, and we have new options that a lot of people aren't as familiar with called estate columbariums, which looks like a regular cemetery monument, but it has spaces within it for cremated remains. So we have a lot of different options, and,
Now,
and that we're very proud of.
I've heard natural burial or
Green burial. Green
Is that
burial, yeah.
an option or
So-
available, or is there?
So people can choose to do that. They can have a green burial. What you might be referring to is some cemeteries have areas that are referred to as a green burial area, which there's actually some criteria for what does that mean. It means that to be truly green burial, machinery is not used to dig the hole. There's no manufactured products used in the burial. So people are not embalmed.
Pine
Just
box,
plain
or-
pine box, yep. Usually a cotton shroud or something along those lines. So there's very strict criteria, and then those areas are not maintained. So it's either forest or a meadow of some sort, but there's no mowing, there's no anything like that
Oh.
going on
Now-
there. So
Concern has to be taken with groundwater or downstream drainage in those things
in
Does
any
that-
section of cemetery, those things are considered
because of
before new sections
contamination.
are
I mean,
developed.
that can
Sure,
not to be
yeah,
gross, but
absolutely.
you can contaminate groundwater
Correct.
underneath that.
Yes.
One, does Wiltwyck Cemetery offer that service, and would it be feasible for you to look into that? Or
We offer a green burial service, but we offer it within the regular maintained areas of the cemetery.
Okay.
So if someone chooses to be buried as green as possible, we can offer that service.
That's cool.
We don't yet have a dedicated area to it, and I'll be honest with you, it is a business decision of we're not quite sure, is this a fad or it's too new? So for me to dedicate an area to the cemetery forever, it takes up a lot of space and land is limited. Part of my responsibility is to look out 100 years from now to make sure that this cemetery is still active, still operating, and still
Well, I
has-
mean, we've all been driving through Queens, and those cemeteries that are
yes.
like back to back, toe to
Bursting at the
toe.
seams. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
you
they're
can't
very-
hold your breath. You know, when you're a little kid, you hold your breath past them. You can't hold your breath driving past
Right.
them. They're
Yes.
huge.
Yeah,
So,
they are. They are. And thankfully, our cemeteries locally are spread out a lot nicer.
Yeah.
than
Well,
that.
100 years time, population is growing. Eventually,
Right, there's
Kingston
gonna
is going to be
issues.
like Westchester. It's just
Yes.
the world is growing, and
Yes.
you know, 500 years in the future, Wiltwyck might look like that. So.
Interestingly, it's cremation is becoming more and more common. Traditional burials drop year over year, and cremations increase year
Is there-
over year.
A theory on that?
I believe so. I think funeral directors would tell you that it may be cost related. I think overall a cremation funeral is less expensive than a traditional burial. But I think we've certainly seen within the pandemic that people have become more comfortable with cremation. So I think it's not quite as mysterious as it has been in the past. I can just speak for my own family, but 20 or 25 years ago, I don't think anybody would have considered cremation in
Aren't
my...
like strict Catholics and strict Jews, like, isn't that?
So I don't,
Catholic
I
frowned
don't,
upon?
yeah, I don't want to speak as an authority on that, but
But
yes,
as I recall, I
don't
remember
think-
you're supposed to be buried, and that's it. You
Well,
know?
the
Yeah.
Catholic faith recognizes cremation now, except you have to bury the remains. You can't
Correct. You
take
can't
the
scatter
urn and put it,
them.
or scatter them, or put the
Correct.
urn on your fireplace.
Correct.
Well,
There has to be a
Something like that.
final.
I've seen
Yes,
it
there
in
has
the
to
Big
be a
Lebowski,
final.
you know.
Yeah, there has to be a final resting place. Yes.
Correct. Correct.
for
So
the
that we have
Catholic
done.
faith.
Yep.
Yes.
But we do. One of the things I love most about my job is how all the different faiths and cultures that we serve. So obviously, Catholic and Christian burials are very common here, but we certainly do Jewish burials, and then we have a Muslim section within the cemetery, and we serve Shiite and Sunni Muslims, which have their services differently.
Different,
Yeah, so it's really fascinating, all the different
yeah.
faiths.
I'm sure it won't be
cultures
long
we're
before
exposed to.
a Buddhist or Hindu or
We do. We
they're-
do their cremations all the time. So
Because
that's
now,
their
does
tradition.
Yeah, that is.
Does that follow their beliefs? Cremation with the funeral pyre. Is it still?
Apparently it does
Wow.
because we have so we open up the crematory and they have their entire service in the crematory.
Wow. Because I know with COVID in India, that was a
Right,
huge.
huge.
I mean, they huge problem of
Yeah, on the news we saw their funeral
yeah,
pyre.
unbelievable.
Yeah, just terrible.
Wow.
And we have discussed, I think, on the radio before about the crematorium, that it's the only one like between Albany and
So we're the only crematory in Ulster County, and yeah, from Albany to Poughkeepsie would be the next closest, and then we serve a broad area. We serve all of Ulster County, Dutchess County, up into Greene. We have funeral directors that use us, all the way down into Orange, Sullivan County. We have funeral directors that are so happy with the service that we provide, the beauty of our building, and just the fact that the family is welcome to participate in this. We have funeral directors all the time that come to us from a great distance to use our crematory.
yeah, and I think that's very important when you embrace the family and make them part of the process, because like we were saying in the beginning of the show, the closure that comes with that is very important. So and the crematorium is relatively new, if I remember correctly, right?
Yep, it's only 2 years old, and it's just a beautiful building. Scott Dutton designed the building, and just a beautiful building for the use and for the experience of the family to come in to participate in it. And that's something that we're trying to get the word out about that. And if anybody has a curiosity and they want to see what a crematory looks like, they can call me at our office and make an appointment. Obviously, we have to be very careful of privacy of the people
Sure.
we're serving, but there are times of the day and of the week where we can have people come in to see it, so that we can take that mystery away of what is a crematory and how does it operate. And we find that people get a lot of comfort from that.
We have a phone call,
On the
Matt.
line now.
They're not. But the caller asked if you could provide the number for Wiltwyck Cemetery.
Our phone number is 845-331-0199.
So if anybody has any questions whatsoever in regard to the crematorium or just in
Absolutely.
general,
Yep,
call
any
that number and
questions at all.
somebody.
And we have.
Can you
we're, of
can you
course-
repeat it, Matt?
I'm sorry.
Can you
the number?
repeat the number?
It's 845-331-0199. We also have our website, of course. We have a Facebook page, Wiltwyck Rural Cemetery, which would be great if people would come follow our Facebook page because I try to post on it regularly. And then we also have our YouTube channel, which only has a couple of videos on it so far. And unfortunately, the YouTube videos are of me talking about the history and operations of the cemetery. But it's been very well received so far.
Got to get the goat back. I bet people
Yes,
would
we'll
watch
get
the
the
goat,
back.
a goat
There's
video.
on the Facebook page. There are videos of the goat
All right.
of the goat at work.
Okay,
bet
there
you-
you go. And on the YouTube, what would you put in to see?
Wiltwyck Rural Cemetery.
Okay.
Yep.
Fantastic. That's great. This half hour went
Yeah,
very quickly.
I told you it was
yes.
going to go quick.
Good.
Yeah, absolutely. So
Now,
interesting.
what does the word rural have to do? Is that like part of a designation or something?
Yeah, just the way it was named so many years ago.
Oh, okay. It doesn't mean like a class or a certification level or something like that.
No, no,
Okay.
but again, we are a community cemetery serving everyone, so we're not just one
Now, you
religious affiliation.
You have to be licensed or certified, or could I start a cemetery in my backyard?
Oh, yeah, I don't think you could. New York State, we answer to the New York State Division of Cemeteries. That is the government body that oversees cemeteries in the state. And there's a lot of regulatory checks and boxes that we have to check off here to operate. And we get inspected on a regular basis, which I always welcome. But yeah, the state monitors cemeteries very carefully. In the crematory, we get surprise visits.
Oh, wow.
They just show up at the
More
door.
than one a year.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely. Several a year.
Huh.
So we welcome that. And it's very good to be able to have an inspector come in and double check our work and make sure everything is running exactly as it
Yeah,
should.
yeah.
And then within our own staff, we have several layers of checks and balances as well. That no one individual completes a cremation by themselves. We have a second individual that always comes in to check and verify everything is going exactly as it should.
That's just to make sure no switches
No problems.
switches were accidentally
No,
hit,
no, no.
or
Yeah,
dials were
exactly.
maintained and whatever.
Yep,
Oh,
exactly.
That's
So-
great. I mean, that's
Yep.
best practices speaks well for
Exactly.
your operation. So
Exactly.
that's great.
Exactly.
So
And I'm really fortunate. The guys that I work with are true professionals, compassionate, and truly care about everyone we serve and everyone that comes through our
well,
facility.
that's wonderful to hear, because that's the toughest time in your life is when you need the best
Correct.
people around you. So
Correct.
good to hear.
Yeah,
you know.
very true.
Great. Well, Matt, look at we chewed through a half hour. So thank you so
Yeah,
much.
thank you, Matt.
Love
Thank
to
you.
have you on
It
again
was
in
a
the future
pleasure.
sometime. And thank you so
I'll
much.
let
for
you
your
know when
time.
we do some historical tours. So
Please
everyone.
Yes,
do, yeah,
please,
call
yes,
up, yeah.
yes.
Absolutely.
Excellent.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right,
Thank you.
Dan, take it away.